Alright, so these are all of my blushes. Blushes are always the hardest category for me to declutter purely because I love blush. I am blushes bitch. Like, I think everyone sort of has a particular category of makeup that they are perhaps more partial to than other categories of makeup. For me, it's blush. Plain and simple. So let's start by grabbing my absolute favorite blush of all time. That would be this one, and let's trade places so she can have the spotlight. I don't know, will turning on my desk lamp help or hurt? So this is Taj Mahal by Nars. I discussed it in a makeup tag that I did a really long time ago as being the absolute favorite item of makeup in my entire makeup collection. This was one of the first ever high-end blushes I bought for myself. The actual true first ever high-end blush I bought for myself is this one by Hourglass, Mood Exposure. This was the second, and at the time that I bought it, this was such a unique color. Like, nothing like this existed on the market. You know, I'm not going to swatch every single blush because otherwise we'll be here for 1,000 years, but it's this very beautiful shimmery burnt orange color. And I feel like the camera's probably not doing this any justice, but it's just this stunning rich color. I love wearing it on my eyes, I love wearing it on my cheeks, I love the name, I love everything about this blush. Like, she's my ride or die. Love her to bits and pieces. So Nars Taj Mahal, she's my number one. She's staying for sure. My number two is this Hourglass Mood Exposure blush. This was the very first high-end blush I bought. As I'm sure you can see here, a big chunk of it is missing because it broke off. I actually have that chunk like in a little Ziploc bag. Like, I basically crushed it up and I've been using it as loose powder. Someone was once like, why don't you like repress it back into this? And honestly, I don't trust myself enough to do that. I worry that if I like try and repress that bit back into this, I'm just gonna like ruin the entire blush, and I absolutely don't want to do that. This is a very odd blush to try and describe to people because when you look at it in the pan, it just looks like dusty. This looks like it would go like pure ash up against my skin tone. But when I sweep it onto my skin, it somehow just melds beautifully. It's this very beautiful mauvey blush, but it has a strong enough warmth or a brown undertone underneath that mauve that it still looks beautiful against my very warm toned skin. When I don't want to like think about what blush I'm wearing, when I want something just completely easy and effortless that's gonna go with almost everything, this is the blush I go for. Out of my entire collection here, this is actually probably my most used blush. I know it doesn't seem like it because that guy has like a bunch of pan and this doesn't have pan except for where it literally like broke off, but this truly is my most used blush. But that's actually a testament to how long this blush lasts, because I've had this for years. This was my very first high-end blush. I think I bought this in like 2014-ish, and I use it like all the time. And like, barring the piece that literally fell out, it doesn't really look like it's been used at all. If and when I ever actually somehow run out of this blush, this is one that I think I would definitely repurchase, but I don't think I would ever repurchase the full size of this again, just because I've realized it takes so long to get through, and because like inflation, Sephora, capitalism, whatever, means that the price of this has just steadily gone up over the years. When I first bought this blush in Canada, this was like, I think $40. I looked it up recently and I think these cost over $50 now. Like, what the hell? Considering how long it's taking me to just like go through this, I don't think I would ever actually like blow the money on a full size of this again. On the mini size though, yeah, because I really truly do just love this blush to bits and pieces. Side note, hate Hourglass's packaging. It's literally plastic painted to look like metal. This is so lightweight, this is so flimsy. This used to say Hourglass written over here. It's like completely scraped off over the years. I've owned these two blushes for nearly the same amount of time, and notice how this one looks pristine and this just looks like beat up to hell. So these are my numbers 1 and 2. They're definitely staying. If I look at the rest of this now, the next thing I want to go for is this Shiseido blush. This is the Shiseido Minimalist Whipped Powder Blush. This is in the shade 03 Momoko. This is basically a less intense version of Nars Taj Mahal. There actually is a little bit of gold shimmer shot throughout this, but nowhere near as intense as Taj Mahal by Nars. So that's it. next to Nars Taj Mahal. These are truly beautiful blushes. They're this sort of incredible whipped, moussey texture that rubs out and dries down into almost like a powdery finish. It provides such a beautiful, healthy flush to my cheeks, and I'm able to use it to do really like subtle, natural, healthy flush blush looks, but also really sort of intense, beautiful, Igari style draped blush looks as well. It's a beautiful formula to me. I enjoy it so very much. I would have a recommend that if people are interested in this Shiseido blush formula, they try and actually physically try it out. Because I, for one, I'm a person who I have no compunction applying products with my hands. I do it literally all the time with all of my cream products. But if that's not you, like if you're a person who I think prefers using a sponge or a brush, I don't really know how well this particular moussey formula would translate. Me personally though, I love the crap out of this. I have been using it a lot during the summer. I'm gonna keep using it a ton during fall because it's pumpkin time. So here we have numbers 1, 2, and 3. My next favorite, you'd actually probably think it's this like Marc Jacobs blush because she's crazy expensive, but it's actually this Stila convertible color in Camellia. This is like a convertible lip and cheek color, but I only have ever really used it on my cheek. It's a very beautiful browny pink color. Now I know if you're just like looking at this in the pan, you might think it's a straight up brown. However, on actual brown skin like mine, this ends up actually looking like a very beautiful and healthy pink. Like a lot of my friends who are like around my skin tone, a lot of South Asian women and that kind of stuff, they'll often ask me like, oh, how do you end up wearing like pink tone blushes? And for like brown women with really warm undertones, I would never recommend something like this MAC blush or even this Marc Jacobs blush, right? I have those two because I'm crazy and I love blush and I like sort of really beautiful contrasting blush intense looks. However, for my actual skin tone, like my brown skin, the most flattering and natural pink tone blushes often look something like this. They're very, very brown toned pinks that will read almost purely brown with just a slight pinkish undertone in the pan, but when actually put on our skin tone will look like a very beautiful, healthy, natural version of a pink blush. I think the blush speaks for itself. Like, look at how it's the only one that has pan in there. It's just one that I've loved for years and years. I've used the hell out of it. I don't know if I would ever actually repurchase this, even after my no-buy year is over. Like, I don't feel a sense of urgency, so to speak, about this blush. Especially knowing that I have so many other sort of neutrally pink tone blushes lying around. But it's truly beautiful, and I'm going to use this up all the way till the very end, or until the cream formula goes bad, whichever comes first. So that's blush number 4. Okay, so I think maybe the next thing I should discuss is just these 2 items, because these are items that are currently in what I would call like a purgatory situation. So this is a YSL blush. I don't think I've told this story yet on my channel, but I basically have a friend who I helped out when she was going through a bunch of mental health stuff last year, and also when she was doing like her job applications and stuff this year. I looked over her resume, I edited her cover letters for like Flow and all of that kind of stuff, and my friend ended up getting like a really, really high paying job. She's making bank now, and so to show her gratitude to me as her friend for helping her get through that really tough time with her mental health, as well as for helping her out when she was like job hunting and looking over all of her stuff, after she got her first paycheck, because you know she doesn't have any like student loans or anything to pay, she ended up buying me 3 pieces of YSL makeup as a thank you present, because she and I have had a lot of conversations around luxury makeup and why women enjoy luxury makeup and what the point of it is. And you know, we've joked around that the day we can go around blowing money on YSL blushes, glosses, and concealers is the day that we've made it. So to signify that, you know, she's made it and that I helped her, she got me a YSL blush, the YSL Touche Éclat concealer thingy, and a YSL like lip gloss. I'm gonna talk about luxury makeup and sort of the things that we discuss and the things that I've sort of realized by using a bunch of the luxury makeup I own and with this stuff in an upcoming like get ready with me video. But for now, I just sort of want to deal with this blush. This is a gift from a very, very dear friend, and I haven't even really had time to use it or play with it. It's just sort of been languishing in my collection since I received it because there's just so much other extra noise there. It's in the shade Nude Blouse. There's a slight sheen to it. I can tell right off the bat that it is very, very similar in tone to Melba by MAC. It's just this has a slight sheen and Melba is completely matte. But right now I'm basically just existing in a state of gratitude towards my friend for having gotten this for me. And so she's staying purely on the merits of sparking joy as a gift right now. I will figure out later as I, get some use out of her and compare her to everything else, whether she also has merit as an actual blush. This is the other thing that I haven't really had time to test out yet. So I had a friend who went to East Asia earlier this year, and she ended up getting me like a whole bunch of like makeup and skincare and all of this kind of stuff when she went because she knows I'm really into that kind of stuff. And I actually demoed some of the makeup that she got me, especially in a video that I'm going to link up in the cards to the right. She also got herself a whole bunch of makeup and skincare, and she's been sort of diligently using it and testing stuff out since she got back, figuring out what she likes and what she doesn't like. So this is a K-beauty product from the company 3CE. It's their Take a Layer Multipot. This particular one is in the shade Cabbage Rose. So my friend picked up two of these, this one in Cabbage Rose and then another one in the shade Diotima. So Diotima was this very light peachy nude color that my friend ended up getting a lot of use out of. This particular one, because it was called Cabbage Rose, my friend thought would be like a very light rosy pink, something akin to perhaps this Marc Jacobs blush. What this actually ended up being is a very deep and rich pink. This was vastly different from what my friend wanted it to be, and it's far too rich for her actual skin tone. She doesn't like the way it looks on her. She thinks it's a little too finicky to try and work with, and so she offered it to me. And when I was talking about this Shiseido blush in Momoko, you know how I said I've been wanting to try sort of more richer berry tone blushes? I decided to accept this when she offered it to me because this is like a test run for that. So I figured this would be a great way for me to test out this color and see if I really do like rosy berry tone blushes, or if it was just something that like seemed good in the abstract but which I don't actually enjoy playing with in real life. These, by the way, are called Multipots because they're supposed to be able to be used on both the eyes, cheeks, and lips. I've just sort of like vaguely swatched it a little bit on the back of my hands. It seems like a very, very rich pink color, as you can see right here, but I haven't actually had time to play with it as an actual makeup look, so she's gonna stay purely in like a purgatory interim stage right now. I just wanted to get like these two things out of the way because they're things that I haven't really used yet, but which I don't want to quite get rid of. Whereas all of the rest of this is stuff that I've actually used, and I can properly give like assessments on everything and decide which ones spark joy, which ones I'm willing to keep, etc, etc, etc. Oh wait, oh shoot, I forgot this guy. Just got lost amongst the highlighters back there. And I think what I'm gonna try and do here is I think I'm gonna try and rank all of these remaining ones. I think I'm just gonna do it off of instinct, like without really trying to explain anything, and then figure things out. Okay, I think this is sort of what I've settled on. So ranking them all from favorite to least favorite. Let's maybe, I guess, go in order and I'll figure out where my individual joy line is. What's the last blush I feel like legit keeping? So this is Kink and Kisses by Marc Jacobs. So half of the lines are this really beautiful rosy color, and the other half is this much lighter, sort of slightly sheeny pink. So there's no real shimmer in this. I find that the effect that this gives me is actually very, very close to the effect that this Hourglass blush gives me, but this one is a little more mauvey brown. This one's much more of like a true rosy pink. This is one of my like favorite pink blushes to use. I love this a lot. I love the packaging of it, the feel of it, the heft of it. For me, these Marc Jacobs blushes are luxury packaging done right, whereas Hourglass is luxury packaging done way wrong. I've realized I've been so inundated with all of these extra blushes, I haven't even really been showing this, one of my favorite blushes of all time, loved during my no-buy year. And I'm sad about that, because when I hold her in my hand, oh my god, here I am personifying inanimate blush objects. When I hold Kink and Kisses in my hand, I genuinely do feel such a rush of joy. So I will keep this with great joy and hopefully use it a lot more now that I'm clearing out some of the space. This right here, this is the most nondescript looking blush of all time. This is Blushbaby by MAC. I know you're gonna look at this and I know you're gonna think it's boring and ashy and how could this possibly look good at all? But when you put it on your skin, it truly gives such a beautiful, natural, healthy looking flush to the cheeks. This was one of those blushes I forgot I owned. I had stored this and Melba by MAC, which is a more peach tone of a blush, whereas Blushbaby's a little more mauve. I had stored these two together in like a little palette. This was like an interesting case because it was like I clearly remembered buying both of these blushes and having them, but because I couldn't find them, I actually assumed I had impulsively decluttered these, maybe to my sister, to my friend, or something like that. And I just so regretted it because both of these two blushes, Blushbaby and Melba, they used to be my like workhorse blushes. They're these very standard matte tones. Blushbaby's a little more pink, Melba's a little more peach, but they are just like effortless. They're not overly pigmented, they're not difficult to work with, it never looks like I've applied too much or that I'm clownish. I have so much love for these blushes. I'm so glad I didn't like impulsively declutter them. I'm so glad I found these in the back of my storage closet with the palettes stuffed in between a pair of my like winter gloves. I've been using them a lot since I like found them before my move, and like I just genuinely have so much appreciation for these two, right? Like I own a bunch of MAC blushes. Like these three blushes are also from MAC, so is this one. And more so than like my Extra Dimension skin finishes or even this like Mineralize blush in Warm Soul, which is like an iconic blush, these would be my favorites. So these are both staying. Next up, we have these bad boys. So these are the MAC Extra Dimension skin finishes. This one is in the shade Rosy Cheeks. This one is in Telling Glow. So I'm gonna see if I can link up in the cards the video where I ended up using this like to do a very, very crazy, intense draped blush look. That hyper pigmented, super intense, dolled up 80s draped blush look is not what I traditionally use this for. Usually I apply this with a much lighter hand, and because this is like shimmery, both of these are shot through with like a really beautiful shimmer. What ends up happening when I use like a brush like this that is synthetic, not super duper dense, and which I can use to just really like buff the color in, the end result is this very beautiful, luminous, watercolor cheek, where my entire cheek has this like lovely, watery, glowy, plumped up quality to it. And I find that because the shimmer in this isn't obviously gold toned the way it is in this one. I don't know if that's actually showing up as I turn my hand a bunch of different angles. Oh, there, you can kind of see it. It actually has a pink base, but there's so much gold shimmer packed through it that it ends up looking orangey in the pan. This, on the other hand, is a pink base, and the sheen or shimmer that's in it is also pink in and of itself. It's not shot through with like silvery shimmer or gold shimmer, and because of that, this ends up being a lot more subtle on my cheek than this. However, both of these are very, very beautiful at giving me like a very luminous, glowy cheek. Oftentimes when I'm in like a rush or I'm just like feeling like a little more like low maintenance or whatever, I will just use either of these two blushes and not bother with highlight. They don't need it. My cheek ends up looking beautifully luminous and glowy and radiant through the power of these blushes alone. Let me just move these guys up a little bit so that we can see the rest of this line in order. Actually, it should be like this. The final blush among these that I know is 100% a definite keep, like it sparks a whole bunch of joy, is this one. This is Warm Soul by MAC. This is a mineralized skin finish. It's actually packed with a whole bunch of like shimmer, and this is another one of those blushes that just, it looks so blah in the pan. I like look at this and I'm like, so what is this? You know? But this happens to be one of those blushes that every single time I end up wearing it, I end up receiving like a boatload of compliments. So last year, for example, my cousin got married in Nepal. This and this were the only two blushes that I took with me. And I ended up wearing this for a couple of different occasions, and both my sisters-in-law asked me what on earth the blush on my cheeks was, because they were like, you look so healthy and beautiful, but it doesn't look over the top. Throughout the wedding, I was wearing like a whole bunch of different looks, ranging from a really heavy smoky eye to like a very, very bright lip. And this just went beautifully with all of them. And the funny thing is, I had chosen this blush to take with me because I was really unsure about how I felt about it. I kept thinking I had made a mistake having bought this blush a couple of years ago. I kept thinking that like, oh, this blush is really overrated. I bought into the hype. Like, I don't know why I did that to myself. And it was really that trip where I forced myself to use this a whole bunch of times that made me realize the utility and value of this blush. That actually, no, this wasn't the worst purchase in the world. This is actually quite beautiful. It looks really good. So this is the final blush that I think I'm going to continue to keep. And then these are the 6 blushes that remain. The reason why this is ranked here is because very recently I bought the Jackie Aina palette. Not for myself, oh my god. So 2 of my friends and I, we split the cost of a Jackie Aina palette for a 4th friend's birthday present. So because of that, my friends were like, Prachi, you order it. And I took that opportunity to get a 100-point perk that I really, really wanted to try, which is a mini size of that Tatcha Silk Canvas primer. And then I also got a free fragrance sample of a fragrance that's been really intriguing to me, the new Maison Margiela Whispers in the Library fragrance. So those were the things that I ordered, and out of nowhere Sephora decided to also throw into my box this like weird sample of the Living Proof Perfect Hair Day shampoo and conditioner, as well as this mini Bare Minerals blush. This is their Bounce and Blur blush in Mauve Sunrise. So now I have this tiny blush in like a mauvey color. It's this one right here. I don't know if it's visible on camera. This is gonna sound so weird, but I just have, at any other moment in my life, I think I would have chomped at the bit for a new blush, because I love blush so much, y'all. Like what highlighter is to Mariah Leonard and eyeshadow is to Hannah Louise Poston, like blush is to me. And so pre-No By Me would have been ecstatic at receiving this blush, whereas 7+ months into my No By Me, I'm just like, okay then, like, what am I supposed to do with you? I've swatched it, I'm like mildly intrigued. I don't know if I'm intrigued enough to want this like dinky sample. Do I care? Like, I seem so like, I don't know, like whiny or weird to myself right now, but I'm just genuinely like not able to muster up joy about this. Like there is the mildest, slightest, smallest sense of intrigue, but I don't know whether it's enough for me to actually keep it. And I think actually that was why I had put it ahead of this blush, because at the very least with this I felt a slight twinge of intrigue because this is new, right? This is an unknown entity, so to speak, whereas like these are older, these are tried and true and tested. It's funny because like as I'm sitting here right now, there's a question that they ask a lot in the show Tidying Up, and Marie Kondo asks a lot in her book, where she's like, the question of what you want to own is the question of how you want to live your life. And that when you go through this sort of a decluttering process, you're not necessarily deciding what to throw out, you're deciding what's important enough for you to keep in your life that you want to bring forward with you. When I think about it, like I don't want to bring this with me moving forward. Like I don't. I didn't ask for this. And I think what I'm feeling is just like, ooh, it's new. And I talked about this in my May check-in. Maybe this is going to be like my ultimate favorite dream blush. Maybe this is going to be like the formula to end all formulas. Maybe I'm just going to be like struck in love and have my life changed. But that's a scam, right? Like when I only owned like 2 blushes and I bought this like Hourglass blush for the first time, like yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, what an incredible formula, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. But like having gone through this process, having kept like all of these beautiful blushes that I love so much with Supreme formulas, it doesn't matter to me that maybe this is the blush formula of my dreams. I have plenty of like dreamy, beautiful, stunning blush formulas that I love. I'm gonna be okay. I'm just gonna let it go. Since this is the one that most intrigued me or most sparked joy, I think that's the Joy line. The Joy line was at the end of MAC Warm Soul, and all of this stuff below it, none of these are really things I want to bring forward with me. So let's just very briefly run through them so that I can thank them and get them out of my life. So here we have the Burts Bees blush. This is the shade Bare Peach. Now this is actually a very beautiful blush. If somebody were to ask me for good drugstore blushes to recommend for around my skin tone or lighter, because yo, the color range on this series, there's literally only 3 blushes and like, it's trash. I'm the upper limit of what this blush range caters to, which is absolute garbage because on the color spectrum of humanity, I am like firmly in the middle. The color ranges available with this, that really ain't it. However, it's a pretty matte peach blush. It has like just the slightest sheen is probably even like a little bit too strong to describe the effect that it has. This is a matte, but it's not a completely flat matte. There is something slightly satiny about it. However, given all of the blushes that I just went through, given the fact that I found Melba by MAC, and given the fact that I have this like YSL blush, which is just a slightly pinker version of this and it also has a sheen in it, I'm good with letting this go because quite frankly, if you place these 2 blushes next to each other and you ask me which one I would rather use, like I'm probably gonna pick Melba every single time. Now this is a little bit more of like a true yellowy peach than Melba itself. It's also a little bit lighter in tone, but like ever since I found this, this has so effectively replaced this that the minute differences in color like don't matter or differentiate themselves enough for me to actually seek this out and use it. This is really beautiful. If I didn't own a bunch of other blushes that I like a lot more, I would probably have kept this. Thanks for your service, my dude. Here we have the Instain blush by the Balm. Now this is something that I had decluttered like a really long time ago, and then I took this back from my sister like in the springtime because I thought I would wear this color more during spring and summer. Well, spring and summer have passed, we are well into fall now, and I can say without question that I only reached for this once. I'm just like, I wasn't really drawn to the color. I just think blushes from the Balm, like these Instain blushes, because I actually used to own a whole bunch of these. And I decluttered all of them for the same reason. And using this blush one time this summer reminded me exactly what that reason was, which is that because these are supposed to be like powder blushes that stain, they're insanely pigmented. And not only are they insanely pigmented, but they also don't blend properly. So wherever you put your brush down first on your cheek, it deposits like an insane amount of color that I just find that I cannot properly buff out. Maybe I'm just garbage at makeup, maybe I have the wrong brushes, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's like way too much of a headache for me to try and make this look good. So I'm just gonna let this go and thank it for having taught me about my own color preferences and what it is I want and don't want out of a blush. I have a similar issue sort of with this NYX blush. So this is the NYX HD Blush in the shade Bronzed. And as y'all can see, this like shattered, and it literally shattered like earlier this day. So I'm not getting rid of this because it's like shattered and I think it's bad. Like I didn't rank this here because it shattered. This literally just happened earlier today because like I said, like nothing is fitting properly in my storage situation right now, and so this and a couple other blushes were like precariously balanced like on top of something else, and this just fell and shattered. I tried to use this blush a couple of times during the summer, and each time I did, I just found that it was a little too intensely pigmented. In order to get this blush to look decent on my skin, keeping in mind, well before this shattered, I would have to dip my brush in there just once, really lightly, tap off the excess on the back of my hand, then I would have to physically tap the brush on the back of my hand to just deposit some of the color on here, and then I could begin buffing it on my cheeks in order to not look like a clown. And that's just like way too much effort for me, quite frankly. I literally tried to force myself to use this blush because I put this in my makeup bag for 2 weeks straight as the only blush product. And I got so annoyed by just like how pigmented it was that by day 7, I had just stopped wearing blush altogether and I was just wearing a bunch of bronzer and highlighter. And that is clearly a sign that this is not a product which sparks joy and not one that I would have wanted to take forward with me, even if it hadn't shattered into a gajillion little pieces earlier today. I will say that if you're quite a bit darker than me and you're looking for like a reddish brown blush, this is a very, very beautiful one. It's like very pretty, it's very shimmery. I can see how on somebody a lot darker skinned than me, the pigmentation would be like a huge asset because it would actually show up as this beautiful like bronzy reddish brown color. And the shimmer that's in this is like very finely milled. There are no chunks of glitter, like this wouldn't really enhance texture, etc. It's just like on me, on my skin tone, like this is too much. It's far too pigmented. This next blush right here is Peachtwist by MAC, and this is actually very, very similar to bronzed in terms of how it looks on my cheeks. However, I ranked this lower than bronzed because unlike bronzed, this actually has straight up glitter particles. The shimmer in this is actually not as finely milled. Every single time I wore this blush, I was like, whoa, my cheeks are looking rough. This really just emphasized all of my texture, much like this blush that I have ranked last. So this is a loose blush from the brand Geek Chic Cosmetics. This is in the shade Nerdgasm. It's basically like a more pigmented, ultra shimmery version of Nars Orgasm. And I attempted to use it like a couple of times, but it is so insanely shimmery and packed with like micro glitters that it emphasizes every last bit of texture on my cheeks. And so as cute as she is, I'm okay with letting her go. So this is the final blush reckoning. I chose to keep 12 blushes and get rid of 6. I can't believe I made the decision to declutter 1/3 of all of my blushes. But looking at this pile over here, like all of these are so beautiful. Like just looking at all of them, I'm like, yes, this is it. Like these are stunning, these are amazing. That I truly don't feel any sense of loss. There's just excitement looking at all of these, knowing that these are the ones that I'm taking forward with me. And this is it, folks. These are all of the cheek products, the blushes, bronzes, and highlighters that I'm choosing to keep, and these are the ones that I'm choosing to give away. This was a very, very long video. As always, thank you so, so much for watching, and I hope you have a great upcoming week. And even if your upcoming week ends up becoming messy or imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. Bye!